Let's start with what took place last night out at Chase as the Warriors had it right in front of them. I mean, they had ample time. They hadn't played since Monday on Christmas. And here come the Miami Heat. You're well rested. You've been rejuvenated with the infusion of this new young starting lineup with Podziemski and Jonathan Kuminga. You're good to go. And then that. You laid an egg. And quite frankly, Larry, they just did not look inspired. There was a lack of energy, and they looked as though they were on the back-to-back on a road trip, whereas it was the complete opposite. How do you explain away what took place yesterday?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it other than they're now sub 500. They didn't shoot the ball. They're not shooting the ball. I mean, if you said to me that the Warriors were going to struggle this year, I would have said, okay. They won 44 games last year. They're on pace to basically do the same thing. They're now sub 500. I think they're underachieving. They can't shoot. I mean, they're 24th in field goal percentage in the NBA. They've got Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, 24th in field goal percentage. They're shooting 46% as a team. Why can't they shoot anymore? That would be my first question. What happened to the shooting? And that jumps out to me. But beyond that, it's not happening. Steph's 35. It just doesn't look like it's all coming together. I just think that they're in a real precarious time in their organization right now where, you know, they're base now sub 500. I think there could be big changes looming, and I'd love to hear from the audience today, either via the text line or taking some calls. And just if you were running Golden State, if you're Dunleavy, or if you're Joe Lacob, because some of these decisions may come over Dunleavy's head, what do you do? What's the trade that's looming? What's the firing that's looming? And I do say firing because I think that's viable. Something needs to happen for Golden State.
Right, back that up, firing meaning the coach?
Possibly. I mean, it's not working right now. And to me, I just get this vibe that Steve is real concerned about a veterans revolt. And, you know, I mean, I personally, I don't love the rotations. I didn't love yesterday. I mean, let's just take Moses Moody for an example. Moses Moody had a great 5-minute run in the first half. He was excellent. He didn't play at all in the third quarter.
I know.
No minutes in the third quarter. And then they put him in the fourth quarter, and he looked good in the fourth quarter.
He was our best player.
In that 8-minute run. And he clearly is like prioritizing minutes for Wiggins over guys like Kuminga and Moody. Moody and Kuminga need to play 25 to 30 minutes a night. And don't tell me about Jonathan Kuminga's 6 turnovers. It only really resulted in, I think, like 4 points for Miami. Yeah, he's going to turn it over from time to time. But this guy shot 38% from 3 last year. He was shooting 41% from 3 in December coming into last night's game. And I just don't think that Kerr's developing him quickly enough. And in the fourth quarter, when you've got the game, there's some separation there. No fourth quarter minutes to develop for Jonathan Kuminga. Moody's not developing. Kuminga's not developing. Kerr's afraid of a veterans revolt. And I don't know what the answer is. I mean, he should be under the gun right now. In my opinion, he should be. I know he's got 4 rings. I know he's a great coach, great guy, better guy. But I don't know. I mean, at what point do you say, you know what? You've got all kinds of pelts on the wall, but your voice is no longer resonating with this team. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. If it's a players' league, but I do think these rotations have to be scrutinized a little bit. To me, their best 5-man starting lineup is the lineup that they finish with in that Celtics game where they had Steph and Klay and Chris Paul and Kuminga and Trace Jackson-Davis. You're too damn small. Play Trace Jackson-Davis. How hard is it to understand? Play Trace Jackson-Davis. I mean, he played in the fourth quarter, but what happened when the game was on the line? He wasn't playing. You're getting beat on the glass. Play Trace Jackson-Davis. I mean, it's not like this guy's super raw. So I don't get it. I don't understand why TJD doesn't play. I don't get it why Moody doesn't play at all in the third quarter after the way he played in the first half. It seems like Wiggins' minutes are always prioritized over Kuminga or Moody's minutes. I'm not loving Kerr's feel for this team this year. They're now sub 500. I think they need a major move. You saw Steph and Clay at the end of the bench, at the end of the game, just sitting there with towels over their head, despondent. This thing needs to move. This thing needs to change. I don't know if it's Kerr, but Golden State needs a major move to shake it up. Is it 2 or 3 guys for a Durant? Maybe. Is it dumping the coach and going in a different direction? Maybe. Is it moving Andrew Wiggins and CP3? Maybe that's it. I don't know. Is it moving Draymond or Clay? God, I would hate to see Draymond go, but maybe that's it. I don't know what it is, Dan, but they're 15 and 16. They're not playing well. I see not playing well. They were playing well recently, but there's something about their whole outfit right now that just screams they need something to happen and something major to happen soon.
I think last night was the low water mark. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Again, Miami without their best player, Jimmy Butler, and also Kyle Lowry and some other key members of that team gone. And yet you lose, and you lose by double digits. Now, that just doesn't happen to a team that's supposed to be competitive in the Western Conference. I'll stop short of firing Steve Kerr. I don't know if I can go there. You said something yesterday that really resonated.
I don't know what the solution is, but that's got to be at least on the table.
You said something yesterday that I was thinking about while watching the game. And you talked about the Denver Nuggets and how they're in their prime, right? You're talking about their key players, including Jokic, all 25 to 30 years of age. And I'm watching the Warriors yesterday, and you're right. They're either too old or they're too young at times. They're not, I tried on a jacket the other day, seriously, about 2 weeks ago, and they didn't have a medium, and I really liked this jacket. All they had were larges and like extra smalls. And so the guy that was helping me out, he's like, either gain 10 pounds or lose 10 pounds. And that's sort of the Golden State Warriors. You can't commit, to guys who are 35 years of age, and maybe it's too young to commit to guys in their early 20s, and they find themselves in sort of this imbalance where they're not hitting that sweet spot of guys who are in their prime. They're either over the hill or they're still ascending to the top of the hill.
And partly, let's put all the cards on the table here. It's partly because they whiffed on their top 3 pick. There was a trade on the table for Anthony Edwards. He went for 44 last night. Now, he went first. He went in front of them. So technically, you can sit there and go, well, they couldn't have gotten Anthony Edwards. But according to multiple reports that I read at the time, Warriors could have made a deal and moved up and got Anthony Edwards, but Kerr didn't like Anthony Edwards' work ethic. Didn't think he was the right fit. If they had somehow wound up with Anthony Edwards and not Marshmallow James Wiseman, they would have extended their dynasty. Instead, they swung and they missed. It was Edwards, LaMelo, and Wiseman. Edwards would have been the extend the dynasty pick. LaMelo would have been the incredible talent added to your roster pick. Wiseman was the whiff. They whiffed. That's kind of why they're at where they're at right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that unique opportunity. How often does that happen? Where you still have Steph, Draymond, and Clay. We're still pretty much in their prime just a couple of years ago. And then you find yourself in the lottery in back-to-back years, and those guys are all coming back and they're healthy. Like, you had a chance to abridge this thing and keep it moving down the track. And we'll see whether they swung and missed in both lottery picks, because the jury's still out to a certain degree with Jonathan Kuminga. We're taking your calls at 888-957-9570. I do want to start with JK, because I know a lot of people are sort of glossing over his performance last night, but this is the sort of level of concern I think that Steve Kerr and others have when it comes to Kuminga. Just when it looked as though we were reaping his praises and talking about how the game was slowing down for him, and he's beginning to see the extra pass, he's getting a chance to start. He had talked about how he doesn't like, coming off the bench or going to the bench. And then there's last night, the 6 turnovers, minus 26 overall. And it's, I think it's attributed to the fact that he's still learning. But again, for Jonathan Kuminga, it's 2 steps forward. yet he still takes that giant step back. And you look at somebody like that Javier Yaquez, the young man out of UCLA, who was the Pac-12 Player of the Year, and in his first year. And sometimes, much like that of Podziemski, not only can he score, but this guy has been big all year long in terms of just one of those players that you can, as a rookie, put him in with a good team like that of the Miami Heat, and he's going to be an impactful player. He's going to recognize balance. He's going to know how to distribute. He's going to know how to get his own. And so when it comes to Jonathan Kuminga, I know the raw athleticism excites all of us. But there is still area, I think the lack of consistency is proven by last night.
Yeah. I was looking for Javier Jaquez. You're talking about Jaime Jaquez.
Sorry.
No, I mean.
I did that twice yesterday.
Javier Jaquez. Jaime Jaquez was really good at UCLA. And what a pick that was. My goodness. That was a fantastic pick. I love the way he's playing right now.
Well, right after Pod, right? Right after Podziemski, I believe.
I mean, and you know what? At the time, I thought, man, that seems kind of low level. But Jaquez is just, he's a mature player. And he knows how to play, and he knows how to play off the ball, and he's got skills. So, that's what you're looking for in the NBA, guys who know how to play off the ball but have the skill to play on the ball, and he can do that. I mean, Spoelstra is a great coach. They've got this is one of the best organizations going in basketball for sure, Miami. And I just thought that this would have been a game that, first game in the homestand, and Heat starting the road trip, and they're shorthanded, and no Butler, no Lowry, no Martin. I thought, man, Golden State's got this one, and then they just can't shoot it at all. I mean, terrible shooting night from Steph Curry. But why the Warriors with all these shoot? I mean, if the Warriors, as small a team as they are going to be 24th in field goal percentage,
it's not going to work.
They're done. They're absolutely done. Put a fork in them. They're finished. They got no shot. You can't. If they're going to be the donut team, they got to shoot the ball. You can't be 24th in field goal percentage when you're also small. We can't shoot, but we're small. I mean, it's like, what? So, I mean, and to me, it's not even about that. That's not my big issue. I mean, I'd like to see them get some more size, but it's more just about some of these rotations that just don't make any sense. It's like, if I'm Moses Moody, man, I want out of here. I want out of here because there's no conviction on him getting any kind of regular minutes. None. There's no conviction. He plays great. Who cares? Doesn't matter. He doesn't play in the third quarter. I mean, this game was decided in the third quarter. It was what was it, like a 5-point game at the half, and something like what was the margin going to the fourth? I mean, the game was won in that third quarter, and Moody was great in the first half, and then he doesn't get any minutes at all in the third quarter. And then here he is in the fourth quarter, and he looks good. He played well. He was one of their best players on the floor. So I'm not getting Kerr's rotation. And, I guess deep down, I really don't believe Wiggins is the guy that I've kind of lost belief in. I'll just freely admit that. He played 26 minutes. He had 11 points. He's an 11-year veteran. He's a one-time All-Star. He's been disappointing since that All-Star appearance. He's not the answer. And in my opinion, I want to see Moody and Kuminga's minutes prioritized over Wiggins' minutes going forward. And if there was one guy that I think, if I'm voting for the big move would involve Wiggins. Because they got to, if you're going to clear the decks for Kuminga and Moody. I mean, here's the thing. You're wrong. You either were wrong to take Kuminga and Moody in the lottery, or you're wrong for not playing them in their third year. It's time to play these guys. So I especially when you have no GP2, you have no Draymond Green, and they're playing, Moody's playing well and just evaporates. It's like nobody notices at all. And then the game's lost, and okay, it's garbage time. Throw him back out there, and Kuminga, I know he turns it over, and it's frustrating to watch, but he also does other things on the floor. I mean, this guy can defend, he can rebound, he can run the floor, he can finish inside. I know he had turnovers last night, and I think the Warriors had like 8 or 9 turnovers before Miami even had one. It was a turnover fest early, but still, I mean, this is the bumps that go along in the road with young players that are 21 that are developing. And I just don't feel like Steve's ever going to give Kuminga or Moody enough minutes to ever ramp up their career. So, I mean, seriously, I don't want to see those guys traded, but if you're just going to sit there and kind of waste them away with no rhyme or reason to their playing time, then you probably should ship them if you don't want to use them. But I think at this point, if I'm Joe, if I'm Dunleavy, there's got to be a major huddle session and go, guys, this isn't what we planned. We're sub 500. We got big decisions on our plate. Let's be decisive. Let's think about this and make the right call. Because to me, Dan, they have to make a major shakeup move. Otherwise, this thing's just off the rails going forward. They're not in the caliber of the top teams in the West. And if they think they are, they're delusional, and it's going to be painful down the end of the year. So, what's the big move going to be? I don't know, but one has to come.
888-957-9570. We're putting it out there to you. If there's a big move, who's out of town? Who do you want? We start things out in Oakland with Leroy. Wants to talk about the head coach of the Golden State Warriors. What's up, Leroy?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Man, you guys are doing a fantastic job filling in. Hey, I'm a lifelong Warrior fan, and I just think right now with pretty much what we're stuck with, I think the adjustment has to be Steve Kerr's philosophy. And his philosophy is, hey, how you guys are going to get minutes is basically you swing the ball, do everything, set the screens, do the rebounding, and swing the ball to Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. If you do that, you're going to get playing time. And I think with young guys, that sends the wrong message. And it should be, hey, if you're open or you have the talent or you feel like you can go one-on-one, go with that thing or shoot the ball. But I'm seeing the players hesitate. Hey, this is not Draymond. Draymond's going to sacrifice his points and not work on his jumper and not do the things he needs to do to score because he knows he's the extension to Klay Thompson and Curry. I'm just going to wait that half a second. I'm not going to shoot. I'm going to wait till they pop open. And I think this is what Kerr wants the young guys to do. And the other day, Kuminga's like, hey, I don't know what they want me to do. I think he exactly knows what they want to do. They want him to wait and swing the ball to Curry and Klay. And he's saying, I'm not Draymond. I'm not that player. And if you look at the press conference Steve Kerr had, it was the first thing he said about Kuminga. Well, why he ain't playing because, he was hesitating to swing the ball when, Curry and Klay was open. And JK's going, man, I ain't got the weight. I got the talent to go. So I just think that Kerr needs to just change his philosophy to, hey, stop waiting to swing the ball to the greatest backcourt that has ever been. And, hey, if you can go with it, go with it. If you one-on-one or you got the shot, shoot it. And I think that would pay dividends, especially with the young guys.
Leroy, thanks. And I think he hit on something there. And it's something you and I have talked about, and that is how do you balance when you have young players and what is supposedly supposed to be a competitive team? It's not Detroit. It's not Washington. It's not Utah. It's not Portland where you're rebuilding or in this transition mode where you can just roll these guys out there and say, go ahead, Jonathan Kuminga, play all 82 games and you got 35 minutes of burn every night. Learn from your mistakes and get better. You don't have that affordability, I think, with the Golden State Warriors because they're thought of as a team that is supposed to contend, at least get to the NBA Finals. So that's sort of the dilemma is, do you defer to the OGs? What is it that how do you mix in or how do you infuse the youngsters with a core that's considered, Hall of Fame-esque? And that's where I think, that's the rub in all of this is you have these older players that are looking to win a title right now, and at the same time, you're trying to develop youth.
Yeah, no, it is tough and there's a lot of inconsistency there because both the young players and the veteran players have good nights and bad nights. Last night, for example, Klay Thompson, bad night. Steph Curry, bad night. And yet, and there's other nights where you're going to have some younger players like Podziemski or Kuminga or Moody who have a bad night. The inconsistency of older players is they can't bring it every night. The inconsistency of younger players is, they have, struggles sometimes against different kinds of, defensive struggles against different kinds of opponents and up and down shooting nights, or it's a little bit more, you're not quite as consistent when you're 20, 21, 22, 23. So that's kind of what they're battling right now. Kerr doesn't know he doesn't know what he can expect from the guys in his rotation, so he doesn't know how to play them on a nightly basis. But the young players need the minutes to develop. And so if I were him, I would start developing some of my younger players and hope that they can improve. Because the chances of Moody or Kuminga or Podziemski or Trace Jackson Davis really improving with minutes is far greater than, you're going to get some amazing production out of the veterans. The veterans are going to have good nights and bad nights based on their age and their energy level and their, I think that's what we're looking at there. But it's a tough one for Kerr because he's got a lot of players that are very similar in that they're it's not an easy to delineate rotation because you got a lot of players of comparable skill, despite the fact they're different ages and different points of their career. And I don't envy him, but it's this idea where Moody and Kuminga at this point should be playing 25 to 30 minutes a night. And Moses Moody played 13 minutes. And it's like, if he plays well in the second quarter, then you got to put him out there in the third, Dan. You can't just sit there and be like, oh, you know what? We're going to sit him and ice him for a quarter and put him out there in the fourth. The game was done by then. The game was won in the third quarter. So I don't know. I want to see Moses and Kuminga's minutes prioritized over Kuminga. I'd like to see Trace Jackson Davis, who now has, I think, 3 or 4 double-doubles compared to 1 for Looney. I'd rather see TJD start. And I like that lineup they had at the end of the Boston game with Steph and Clay and Chris Paul and Kuminga and TJD. That's the lineup I want to see. I think that lineup really you've got finishers, defenders, smart players, Steph, Clay, and CP3 all on the floor at the same time. I think in a lot of ways that could be their best team.
I think the identity is something we can get into about this basketball team because for the first time, I don't know who the hell they are. Is this a team that wants to run as it typically does and get out and shoot threes? Or is it more methodical and walking up the floor with Chris Paul? Are they young with the youngsters or is this a veteran-laden team? Right now, the identity of this basketball team for one of the few times, in fact, the only time since Steve Kerr's been the head coach, is sort of a head scratch. Let's get back out to the phone lines at 888-957-9570. Oh, Philmo, where you been? Let's hear from Philmo Mike. What's going on, my man?
Hey, what's up with it, man? Larry Krueger preacher, man. I mean, Steve Kerr, he should have been developing the youngsters 2-3 years ago. Like, honestly, you look at Miami and then the youngster that they drafted before from UCLA, he could have been on the Warriors, but Miami got him. But the confidence and faith that Spoelstra has in his players, he allows them to develop. Like, you have to really give somebody rope to let them develop. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you always yanking somebody when they do one thing wrong, you got to give them some leash. Let them mess up. They're puppies, bro. Like, they're going to knock stuff over. Like, her act like they can't, I don't know. It's so weird. And it's like, if he would have only let players play and give them real confidence and not none of this fake stuff, our players would be a lot more better. You see Moody got talent. I'm not saying that he's, super, super good, but when he's playing well, let him play. Who knows where he could be? You know what I'm saying? And with Kuminga, he had a couple of plays last night where he went straight to the hole. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, he may turn the ball over, but it was a couple of 2-3 plays where he just went, nobody could guard him. And that's the Miami Heat we talking about. So thank you, Larry Krueger. Keep preaching, man, because Steve Kerr, he needs to switch it up, man.
No doubt. I mean, how come Jaime Jaquez can get 33 minutes a night in Miami? But Kuminga and Moody can't get minutes on the Warriors.
You could say Podziemski and TJD are getting run.
Well, recently, TJD has gotten some run, but I mean, TJD should have gotten run out of camp. To be totally frank,
and
about
Podziemski, to be frank as well.
Yeah, I mean, these guys could have gotten run right away, and then now you're what, 31 games in, you're sub 500. I don't know. It's a weird vibe. They've got a weird vibe about them right now. And to me, I think it's almost like everybody's waiting around for what's the big thing that's going to happen with this franchise that kind of, I almost feel like they're leaning on Dunleavy to kind of come up with a direction or at least a reaction to how they've started.